Hey, all right, we'll let people join us. This is Anthony Parent of IRS Medic. And actually, you might notice something totally different today. We're going to be talking about the government shutdown, but just something I want to point out. The name of the channel has changed to One Team Legal and Tax. It's still me, it's still IRS Medic. But the problem with IRS Medic is that people think all we do is tax emergencies when we do a lot more. We do business planning and tax advisory. And the reason why we're so good at solving tax problems is because we do all that other stuff too. So just letting you know, we did change the name. Still me, One Team Legal and Tax. I haven't been bought out by private equity. No. This is not that. But we are still the real deal doing what we do. And with me today, my long-term friends, Keith Redmond. Keith, good morning to you. Keith is going to have to hop off in about a half an hour. Keith and I were just chit-chatting before this about kind of the name change that I had to One Team Legal and Tax. I hope you guys don't mind a little advertising here. I got to explain it. But good morning to you, Keith. How you doing?
Good morning. I apologize in advance if my connection's a little dicey, just my location right at the moment.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so Keith, we were talking about how really, and I think the thing is that we've done, what John has done so much, we've done all the time with our expatriation services. We have been in the estate planning business for a long time. I don't know if we've gone out and said that. And that's sort of the realization I had. And what happened last night is I had a new client come in, and she goes, "Hey, look, I want to get a tax opinion on this estate plan." Another attorney down the street created. I said, "Okay, sure. What's your tax question?" It was the most basic question about the inheritance of IRAs, right? And so I said, "Well, yeah, here, do this." And then I realized it's like, wait a second, you're doing estate planning? And you don't know basic things about tax? Like, what are you doing? So anyway, that's one of the reasons why we got into it, because a lot of professionals out there don't put it together. They just do one thing. They're in their little silo. So we are the place that do it all together. And that's why I think we've had some success. And now, Keith, with the estate planning, this is the thing that you say. What's your advice you tell people when they're looking for their solution?
Well, I tell them obviously after the fact, it's hard, but to be proactive. And what that means is, as far as inheritance is concerned, you may need to take a look at whatever upcoming inheritance you may get. And you might have to sit down with, let's say, mom and dad and say, well, because I'm an American overseas, we may have to recalibrate on how you have the inheritance structured, at least for me as one of your children. So, because you don't want any surprises, that's number one. Number two is I tell people that every financial action you take as an American overseas, you really need to take a look at and how it will affect your U.S. tax compliance, whether you're in the U.S. tax system complying or not, because down the road you may need to comply for whatever reason, and you want to mitigate any surprises. And so it's really important. You invest in your country of residence, that's fine, but you need to take a look at how will that look on your tax filing with the US? Is it really a good investment? You see what I mean? So there's a
You
lot
know,
of
Keith,
proactivity
you're
that needs
absolutely
to
right.
happen.
You're absolutely right. I was trying to bait you into the other answer, because you're absolutely right on that. And by the way, I did put up Keith's group, American Expatriates. Now you're over 11,000. He's growing.
12,000. 12,000.
12,000. And really, Keith's group are people overseas. A lot of people overseas married to non-U.S. spouses, and now we're entering into that zone. That zone of, hey, we have that great transfer coming up. And I did some stats. I did some research on it yesterday, and the global nature of the great wealth transfer is totally understated. That people don't understand that, when I'm reading all the content, hey, this great wealth transfer is happening, 74 billion is going to happen. All that is the same domestic U.S. bubble that we talk about, Keith. The same bubble of there's only assets in the U.S. and there's nothing overseas. But when you add in everything overseas and all the foreign investment in the U.S., you end up seeing that the great wealth transfer is going to wind up being something more like 150 trillion. 100, 200 trillion, something like that. So that's really, it's one of the craziest things. It's global. It's like, we know that the world became global, but every attorney forgot about it when it comes to estate planning. But that's why we're here to help you out. And so you go to Keith's group if you have questions on that. He helps out people a lot. And I just want to hit this up front. I hope you guys don't mind. As I'm waiting, people filter in. We usually have people filter in. I hope you guys don't mind too much. We haven't started talking about the shutdown yet. We're going to get to that.
Yeah.
But you can reach out to Keith there. So now we'll start to get to the shutdown first, but I want to give a little bit of introduction to the great John Richardson. Great. I think I did see it. Do you have your 32-ounce Montgomery coffee this morning to power you up? All right. Good morning, John. How you doing?
Maybe we should have McDonald's as a sponsor for these podcasts.
There we go. All right. So good morning to you, John. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
All right. So we have a little bit of a government shutdown going on.
That's still happening, is it?
It is still happening. It did go on. It did happen.
It happened.
And so you're coming to us from, it looks like sunny Toronto. What's the temperature like out there in Canada? So I guess here's the thing. Does anyone talking it about up there in Canada? Is anyone talking about, is it sort of on the news? Is it up there?
Well, let me just check the main Canada's national newspaper. Probably. Let's see what they're saying today. Well, let's see here. Yeah. It's the second story. U.S. government shuts down lawmakers' deadlock on funding deal.
All right. So what's the first story? What's the first story?
Ottawa weighs greater retail access for U.S. dairy industry. That sounds like they're,
okay,
willing to sell the Canadian dairy industry out.
All right. So the top two stories in Canada are.
One's is sort of reporting on what's happening. U.S. government shuts down.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Bad thing. I don't know.
Well, and I think this is what I want to. What we want to talk about is like, did we have a government shutdown? We've been through them before. This one, I think, is a little bit different. That's kind of my point. We've had we've had, and this is what we've.
Here's one. Look at this. Canadians say they are struggling to get information on relatives in ICE detention.
Shocking.
Really? Canadians say they're struggling to get information on ICE detention. So I don't know. Hang on a minute. I mean, I can
that's not surprising.
All right. Well, so a lot of U.S. in the news in Canada, but and I would say it's the second story. And one of the things that I noticed about the shutdown this time is that the last shutdown I think was 2018, 2019, 31 days, and that was consumed the news. And then I remember Ted Cruz's shutdown, I think in 12 or 13, somewhere around there, consumed the news. And every shutdown consumes the news. The first one wasn't until 1976. We didn't have the first government shutdown until 1976 against Gerald Ford. And then from there, I guess it was a normalized sort of psyop of the government to do this little trick of, hey, we're going to do this kind of thing and really abuse its own and government employees. And I mean, that's always something like, the deal was, hey, you'll work for the government, but you get you get paid less, but it's steady. That was the deal. Now, oftentimes they get paid more, but it's not really steady or predictable. So that sort of predictability is gone for people. I think that's one thing that's really happening this time. And by the way, please comment. We're going to try to get more of a comments below because this is more of a news story than we're not doing our analysis. But I am going to go over the IRM of contingency because we've got to do a little bit of analysis on the show. We're going to do a little bit. So we'll get to that. But generally, this is totally different. Now, luckily now.
You know what? You know what, Anthony? Just a little aside. I'm in a national park right now, and I'm watching live the government shutdown. They're locking all the public restrooms, so you can't use public restrooms because of the shutdown.
It is. All right, so they're hard working, shutting it down. There we go, right on. Oh boy, this is a lot of fun, huh? Oh boy, a lot of plans interrupted. So much fun that we get to do this. We get to play these games with people's lives. And here's just sort of showing the control the government has over our lives, right? When it shuts down, it shouldn't be an issue. But boy, they control so much, it kind of gets to be an issue here. Now, I think one thing, I guess the first thing I want to talk about, the other thing why it's totally different this time, and I think this is more the legal thing. So, John, I want to jump into this issue with you. Is I think that, let me get my screen up. I think one big reason why it's different this time, and I think we just did discuss this briefly in a podcast. Oh, I didn't present. Hang on. Let me get this one here. There we go. Okay, I think we discussed this briefly. But we have this case that came out. Donald Trump, President of the United States versus Rebecca Kelly Slaughter. So this is the case that overturned Humphrey's executor. Basically, essentially, it did. And what struck me as odd is I had no idea this was happening. And when it came out, I'm like, okay, yeah, Humphrey's executor overruled, because I forgot about the case. Yeah, I read about it in law school, but I don't remember. It just sort of was one of those New Deal things of like, who knows what it's about. Just one of these things where the government won, like all the New Deal cases, the government always wins, right? And most of the time the government always wins. But here we have Humphrey's executor. And this was overturned. We had, some dissents here, but whoa, this gave me whiplash. That's what I would say. This case gave me whiplash because, we have the quick dissent, but really, where's the opinion? Whoa, hey, okay, we have a dissenting opinion, but all we have, and this is the thing, all we have is an application for stay that the federal government filed, and then just like a clerk saying approved. There you go. Yeah, we're gonna grant that. They didn't give their reasoning, right? All we have is a reasoning of the dissent about why. What's your take, John?
I haven't read it.
It's not there. Well, I mean, only the dissent is.
Yeah, okay. This is the dissent. That's it?
That's it.
Hold on, let me read. Dissenting from on top of granting before the court today.
Issues a stay, enabling the president to immediately discharge without any cause a member of the Federal Trade Commission. That stay granted on our emergency docket is just the latest in series. Earlier this year, the same majority, by the same mechanism, permitted the president to fire without cause members of the National Labor Relations Board, the Merit Systems Protection Board, and the Consumer Product.
Yeah, well, what they're saying is the court's not protecting the American people from the executive branch. Is what they're saying.
And so that Congress, as everyone agrees, prohibited each of these presidential removers. See 15 U.S.C. 41, barring president from discharging FTC commissioners except for inefficient neglect of duty or malfeasance in office. Under the relevant statutes, the entities just listed are classic independent agencies, multi-member bipartisan commissions whose members serve staggered terms and cannot be removed except for good reason. That right there, I think, is a great explanation of what happened. Okay? So what Humphrey's executor said is that, hey, look, if you have a multi-member bipartisan commission and serve staggered terms, you cannot fire them unless for cause. So that's it. And I think this is where I go to I get Keith is going to have to leave us, guys. I say, hey, all right, Keith, I'm sorry you have to go. If your connection does get a little better, try to hop in and try to listen in. And so be sure to check out Keith. Thanks, Keith. I'll get his information at the end as we're going. So here we go. Before this, Trump could not get rid of anyone except for cause. So when we're talking about, say, a member of the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve is an interesting law. The Federal Reserve Act is an interesting law that took, where Congress took its specifically delegated power to coin and regulate money, and it took its non-delegable duty and it delegated it to a private entity known as the Federal Reserve, owned by, as Donald Trump said, foreign investors in the United States. And as everyone knows, that's who owns the America is basically the member banks of the Federal Reserve. And as it is now, they set up the law that you couldn't remove anyone except for cause. And so there was a story recently where one of the governors was caught lying on a mortgage application. So there's like, okay, well, that's cause. So the dispute over whether that's cause. Well, now Trump doesn't even need that. Trump doesn't even need any of these people. He just get rid of them. And that's kind of where it's like this is my point. This is, I think, the key to understanding, to me, the key to understanding what's happening and why this is different than every other one is because of this tool that just magically came out. What? A week ago? This rule that totally changes the nature of this shutdown just came out. It's so fresh. There's not even any explanation to why. It's just granted. All we know is why it shouldn't have been granted by the dissent. But it shows how, again, this is when I see words like independent, you mean unaccountable. Like classic independent agencies, that means unaccountable. That means unaccountable to me. Independent means, well, who controls you? Oh, you control yourself. Oh, that means, well, then what's that about? So the classic independent agencies don't exist. They're told what to do. There's no independent agencies. What's that about? What they mean is unaccountable agencies is probably what they mean. Well, we can do what we want to do. So this is where I'm at, John. This is why I'm looking at this shutdown totally different. You follow? You see my point here? This seems weird. Doesn't it seem kind of weird that this happened?
Well, I think what's happening is an erosion of the protections that the American people have from the government. I mean, that's clearly what's happening.
So, and I think, and if I hear you, I actually think you're thinking that you're lining up more with dissent here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the problem is this. Okay, Anthony, I'm going to ask you a real simple question. I just want a yes or a no.
Yeah.
Do you think government is presumptively your friend or your enemy?
Enemy.
Right, of course. So therefore, all right, it's important that you as an American citizen or resident, what have you, have protection from the government, right? And it seems to me that what this decision and others is doing is fundamentally saying there are no restrictions on what the executive branch can do. And that might play well with constitutional scholars and stuff like that, but not everybody in life is burdened by the negative effects of a law school education. And even a dog knows whether it's been, tripped over or kicked, right? And the problem here is that we are seeing an erosion of the protections that the American people have from arbitrary governments, right? That's sort of how I see it in my simple-minded way.
Interesting. Well, because interesting. Yeah, I think we have a disagreement here. This is going to be fun. I think we might have a little bit of fun here. Because I'm hearing you, and this is what I would say. This doesn't seem to fit in a box here. This doesn't seem to fit into a box where you can go, because I totally agree with you. I totally agree that I've never witnessed an overt amount of executive action that seems totally crazy and unfounded. And we've seen things such as Trump's gold card, which doesn't exist. Right? It's like, why is he promoting this thing that doesn't exist? We haven't seen the arbitrary flex of presidential power this intense, and actually none of us alive has seen it since Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, as you recall, suspended the writ of habeas corpus. He jailed his critics. He enforced a draft. He did very, very terrible things in his reasons were. And that's really fundamentally changed the federal government to a super state. The Civil War is where, Americans lost, the federal government won. That's really the point. And we haven't seen this bold sort of overt executive, hey, do what we want. Maybe, except maybe in wartime. In wartime, things are clouded, and maybe we're in war right now.
I think that's probably correct.
Concern. Go ahead.
I think that's probably correct, but let's keep it simple. So a minute ago, I asked you the question, is government friend or presumptively enemy? You answered presumptively enemy, right?
Correct.
Okay, now I'll ask you part two. Do you think there ought to be limitations on people or organizations that are presumptively your enemy? Do you think there ought to be limitations on what they can do to you?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I mean, I think that that's the starting point in the discussion. And you ask yourself, what is a constitution, right? Anyway. Okay. And you can get varied answers. I mean, you can get answers like, well, this is how, we want to organize our government, or this is how somebody else is organizing our government for us, right? But one thing that seems to be prevalent, at least in terms of its supposed existence in the modern world, is that part of the role of the Constitution is to protect individual citizens from government overreach.
Yes.
And look, I think it's awfully clear that looking at the United States or looking at Canada, looking at Britain, at the present time, all of these countries call themselves democracies. And if the definition that you can vote, if the definition of democracy is you can vote, then they clearly are democracies. But what we're seeing are political parties that think the purpose of democracy is to further the interests of the political parties and not the interests of the citizens. What we see in this government shutdown, as far as I can see, is essentially one political party waging war against another. I mean, I haven't heard anybody, really talk about the effect of this on individuals. I'm not personally bothered by the government shutdown because most of it, I think, is a waste of money anyway, right? But the problem here is that we have evolved at least in the 21st century, even I think in the last century as well, into a political environment where political parties have hijacked the democratic process for their own purposes. And this is why...
But it does immediately. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, and this is why it's extremely important. Look, I'm no, one of these left-wing liberals by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I'm the opposite. But even, somebody who's sort of as conservative as I am, well, it's because I'm a conservative, I see the dangers of not having protection from government overreach. And this stuff that's going on in Canada, the UK, and clearly the United States is just over the top.
Okay, so and I think here's the difference, and I think this is a difference because I see the debates and the posts going on, and it's, to me, it doesn't get me going all that much, but that I know the immigration attorneys, it's the focus on ICE, whatever they're doing. To me, it's not the number one concern on me. I'm not an immigration attorney, and I think that's the thing that is and look, and I'm just mentioning my bias. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying how I'm looking at this, because this is where I'm pretty sure, like, John, you and I have talked about this. You're the one who told me. I mean, you're the one who red-pilled me in so many ways. This is what I would say, though. This is what I would say to counter that argument, and maybe this is the way that I'm perceiving what's happening.
Sorry, to counter which argument? What are we talking about? To counter which
argument? Whether or not, because what you're saying is that what you're looking. I said, do you agree more or less with the dissent, and you said, yeah, I guess I probably agree with the dissent here.
I haven't read the case. What I agree with is the principle that there need to be restrictions on what the executive branch of the government can do. That's what I'm committing to. I don't know anything about this case other than, you're just having flashed it up on the screen here.
Okay. All right. My point would be simply this, is that what I'm seeing that we're, the administrative state is out of control with penalty. We talk about that after. You're going to come down harder than I would on that. And so what I see this as, is Trump is vetoing the administrative state. That's what I see this as. So that it's that, hey, look, we know something. Voting doesn't work. Voting doesn't work. If we're trying to make the United States, America, or the world a better place, by every metric, nearly every metric, Americans are in a worse position than they were a long time ago. And when we talk about, Trump did say, and he said some crazy things, and he said a lot of promises didn't come true yet, maybe. We'll see what happens. But on the Joe Rogan podcast, he said the income tax was the idea of foreign enemies, that tariffs were all we needed. And he also explained that the Federal Reserve wasn't really the thing it was. And so here we are. When I look at this and what Trump said about a year ago, what he's done, getting rid of federal employees, we have the dissent saying, hey, look, we have statutes, AKA, otherwise known as legislative interference. We have statutes that say you can't fire these unaccountable people. But now we have Trump being able to, with this case coming out of the blue. You didn't have a chance to read it yet. Coming out of the blue.
Okay, what the case is saying, as I understand it, okay, and this would be consistent with a pile of other ones, is basically that there's no constitutional limitation on the government's ability to fire these people. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So, fine. Okay. And, to the extent that President Trump would say, the administrative state is essentially involved in an ongoing war against the American people, yes, I would agree with that. Okay. I think there's no doubt about that. Okay. But the issue here is not whether the administrative state is carrying on an ongoing war against American citizens. Okay. The issue, I think, but again, I haven't read the case, but I think the issue, okay, is under the laws of the United States, whether the legal way to deal with that is just firing them. Is that the issue?
The issue is, they're just gonna, and I think, and this is the thing. So, go ahead. Go.
I mean, I don't think there's any incompatibility at all. So I mean, that is consistent, okay, with my general view. Look, there have to be limitations on what governments can do. There absolutely have to be. And, that seems to me actually to be the number one principle here, because if there are no limitations of what governments can do, then in fact, you've created a situation where a small group of people or even one person, can basically, make decisions and impose those decisions on a whole country. And I don't think it's like, let's look at something like, these deportation things, right? They're sending these people, off to El Salvador and this sort of stuff, right? Or anywhere else. I don't have a strong, because I don't live in the United States, probably. But even if I did, I don't think that this immigration issue for me would be a hot spot particularly, okay? Sorry, I just don't see it as quite as offensive as, as a lot of other people do. All right. Largely because, it's pretty clear that they're doing valuable work, et cetera, in many cases. I mean, they're good people, they're bad people, anywhere. But the problem is this. I mean, let's say that I'm a person who thinks that, any undocumented immigrant in the United States should in fact not be there. All right. And let's say we even agree that they're there illegally. I believe, rightly or wrongly, all right, that there needs to be a process that needs to be followed to get rid of these people, all right, which does ensure that their removal, I mean, if they're supposed to be there according to law, right, then their removal should be according to law as well. I mean, you can't pick and choose where the law applies. I mean, you go around a truck, grabbing people, and sending them here or there. What you're really doing, I think, is saying, well, our justification for this is that the laws of the United States do not allow them to be in the country. They are there illegally. They have not complied with the relevant laws, whatever those may be, that would authorize their legal presence in the country. Okay, so let's agree that that's the case. So what you're doing is you are relying on rule of law for your decision, then I think you've got to rely on rule of law for for how you get rid of them as well. I mean, you can't pick and choose. We're going to use the rule of law as a sword and not as a shield or something.
This is where I would say is like we got to back up a step though, because it's like we say these things so casually. It's funny. It's funny how casually we just say these things. Someone's just found themselves one day here illegally. Here they are, just sort of minding their own business, and the next thing they knew is they knew that they found themselves in the United States of America legally.
Let's agree that they have willfully, intentionally, knowingly, and evilly, malevolently decided to violate the immigration laws of the United States. Let's agree they're the worst.
The question is, and this is the question I have, and the question I have is, okay, but how?
How what?
How did they get to violate the law? How? How did they get to violate the law? And the answer is, because the border is open. So when we pick and choose laws, it's funny, the laws we won't talk about, like, hey, look, the Constitution says you have to defend the border. But that one we're going to excuse the government on. Well, how'd they get here? Because the problem when you don't have a border is because now, yes, you inherently are going to have to, we don't know who's who. That's the whole point of a border. We don't know who is legally here, and we don't know we're in a situation where we're going to need to ask for papers. Why? Because we will not secure the border. And the Constitution it's the highest law of the land. Secure the border. And Trump did say, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. That's the problem. So how can you have a rule of law when you have to presume that some people may be here legally? You don't know. You don't know, and you intentionally don't know. It was intentionally put down. And so I think that is sort of the problem. First off, is like, well, we're just ignoring the first part of this equation. There's no border. There's no meaningful way. And in fact, many NGOs are paid by our own funds to traffic these illegals in here. There's a whole entire industry making this happen.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing with a single thing you're saying. I don't know anything about it really, but I don't disagree with any of it.
Okay.
I see the question as more narrow. Okay. And it's this. Is it permissible for a group of people en masse drive around in vans, pick people up off the streets and just take them away? Is that permissible? Yes or no?
Yes.
You say yes?
Wait, hey, I'm sorry, John. I do see we got some comments here, and I got a little distracted. I'm sorry, because there was something.
Let's agree with everything you're saying, and let's even attribute the highest form of evil to every undocumented person in the country, that they are doing specifically to rip off the American people, come in, eat their pets. What was that, in the last election? Just attributing all kinds of malice.
Well, they did.
Okay, fine. Even within that context, do you think that it's somehow okay for a bunch of people designated by the government, to drive around and, with masks on, etc., and just pick people up based on their perception and nothing more? Okay, that one of the people they're picking up is one of these, vile, evil, undocumented people. Or why don't I just stop there? Do you think that's okay?
There's a problem. That's exactly the problem. Okay. That I agree with you. Yes, I agree that I would say that is that you don't know who is who. And that's
right. That's right. Okay, that's part of it. You don't know who is who. So we would agree that what's going on is bad, or at least not good.
Yes, it's bad.
Not acceptable, something like that.
Yeah.
So the reason that we have laws, is simply to prescribe procedure and mechanism to go and root out all this evil, if that's what in fact it is. Because, if you don't hold yourself to a higher moral standard, then you just become at least as bad as the people you imagine that they are.
All right. Well, this is actually going to tie in exactly. I just got this screenshot up.
And by the way, to be clear, I am not, okay, anybody who knows me, all right, there's probably not a person on the planet who generally finds the Democratic Party as disturbing as I do, okay? But, that has nothing to do with, you don't justify your own behavior by looking at the behavior of somebody else. And this is the problem, okay? That you have to make a decision on how you want to run your own life, according to what kind of moral standards. And no matter how I look at this, I just cannot agree with a situation where the government can become the judge, jury, and executioner when we've already agreed that the government is presumptively the most evil thing around.
It's already the executioner. We know they're executioner. Why would we want to go to jury, right?
We all need protection from the government. That's why we have jury trials. We
right.
talked
Well,
about
that's
that FR case last week, right? That's why we have jury trials. That's why we have hopefully a constitutional prohibition on excessive fines, an Eighth Amendment issue. It's where you start from. You see, if you start from the presumption that, we can trust governments, that they're fundamentally good, that, we can't understand why that person was just picked up by a bunch of masked men, but, probably it was for good reason. We can tolerate it, and my thinking on that is no, and no. The whole, you can't somehow hold your enemies to some kind of a legal standard and then say, but I'm so pure and good that I don't need to be held to any kind of legal standard at all. And this is just not this administration, although I appreciate that's what we're talking about. This is governments absolutely everywhere, all around the world. And what is needed is a revolution to return democracy to individual citizens.
We don't want democracy. We want our fundamental rights. Democracy's the enemy, John. I'm sorry. Okay. Democracy's the rule.
I'll go with that. We want to return fundamental rights
there we go, right
citizens. Absolutely.
That's where we're going. Yeah, there we go. Andrew's here to keep us on track. Good morning, Andrew. Thanks for joining us today. Well, this is what I want to get over to because we had a great comment from, and John, you're perfect, so great here. Thank you very much for joining us, Software. The executive order that just signed to investigate Americans abroad, among other things. What was your opinion on that? I missed the Brent X piece. It's not there for listening if you didn't attend. Thanks.
What is my opinion on a Trump executive order requiring that all American citizens abroad be investigated? You're asking me what my opinion is. Why don't you imagine what my opinion on that?
I'm looking. You know what? Yeah, in Software, I'm looking for the actual executive order because I can't find it because I'm finding this one.
That's what you want. No, wait. No, that's not the executive order. I sent it to you. There's a link.
You sent it to me. Is it this one? It's not this one. Is it this one?
No. Hang on. I'll send it over to you. I think this is important. Let me get it.
Yeah, I think this is what people are here for. Yeah, when I see a comment like that,
I think for good reason.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But anyway, what I would say.
Give me a second, Anthony.
While John's getting that, I did find this one by mistake. And if anyone has the link to it, you want to throw it in the super chat, I can grab it quicker probably than John could get it over to me. This is
all right. Here you go, Anthony.
Yep.
I'm sending to your email.
All righty. Very good.
Wait a minute. No, hang on a minute. What's going on here? It's not spelling your email properly, Anthony. Why is that?
I don't know because it doesn't like me. What's the title of it? What day is it? What day is it?
I just sent it to you. Just check your email, okay? Right, you'll be a happy camper when you see.
We'll be able to. We're very. Come on. We're waiting for it. It's got to cross the border. It's getting hassled right now.
Right.
John's throwing the passport coming down.
They're trying to tear.
It's on the Taconic Parkway, or it's going over the Tappan Zee. It needs a toll. Okay, come on, we're waiting for it. Come
Pay
on.
the tariff, Anthony. Pay the tariff.
Tariff.
America.
The tariff on John Zemo. Jeez. Jeez. I think I got to pay a tariff. I haven't got it yet. Could you just get up and tell me the date? I might be able to find. I'm waiting for it to come over here.
September 25th. September 25th, I think is the date.
September 5th. Okay, let me just see if I could get a search of
this.
this.
September 25th. It's called Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence.
Countering domestic terrorism.
Domestic terrorism and organized political violence. It's frankly, this is actually an argument for, you could use this to start a course on human rights, actually. It's so absurd. Have you ever heard, Anthony, the idea of certain penalty for uncertain conduct? Have you ever heard that?
Oh, I heard someone said it. Finally. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for your patience. So here we go. Yes. And I did read this. And then for some reason, I'm like, oh, I don't know. My reaction was, let's see here. Okay, right. So all right. So software's got it. Thank you very much.
Don't worry. We don't know exactly what this is about. What it's, other than, but what it is. Shall I go to section 2 and go to
section here? This is what we want to talk about. The National Joint Terrorism Task Force, and it's local offices. Well, okay. I guess they're global, right? The global offices shall coordinate and supervise a comprehensive national strategy to investigate, prosecute, disrupt entities and individuals engaged in active political violence and intimidation designed to suppress a lawful political activity, obstruct the rule of law. This strategy shall include the investigatory and
okay. Can I read out the relevant part here so we don't get confused? Okay. So it goes on and on about a bunch of stuff. I mean, look, this is like apple pie. Is there anybody who doesn't think terrorism is bad?
Well, that's what the F-bar was going to stop. So I don't even know why we have terrorism, the F-bar, right?
Well, that's a specific form of terrorism against Americans abroad, I think.
Yeah.
Let's look at this. Okay, here's section 2. Now, this is fascinating. Investigating domestic terrorist organizations. And, they start going on about they want to investigate domestic organizations. Now, that's sections 2A and B, but that's not good enough. We need to move beyond domestic organizations. And now we go to C. Now, the JTTFS shall. Now, Anthony, SHALL. What's that word?
Shall.
Mandatory. Mandatory.
You do it. You got to do that, buddy.
You will investigate.
Yep.
So then they start with 1, institutional, individual, funders and officers, employees of organizations that aid and abet the principals engaging in criminal, okay. But get this. Now, after the semicolon, we have the word AND. What's that spell? And. In other words, what is coming here falls in the category of shall investigate. And here we go. Ready?
Here it is. Yeah. So this is the point software wants. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Non-governmental organizations. And ready? Look at this next cluster of 4 words. American citizens residing abroad.
Wow.
Let's read on. Or, what does that mean? I guess that means America.
Oh, right. I guess or with close ties to foreign governments, agents, citizens, foundations, or influence networks engaged in violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or money laundering by funding, creating, or supporting entities that engage in activities that support or encourage domestic terrorism. And I would say this, hey, look, we're all against the terrorism, but we've heard this from the government every which way. That the terrorism, every time that we're told to fight terrorism, we lose. We for ridiculous things. And then, when you look at who is actually causing the terrorism, you don't want to know. So terrorism is used terrorism is used as a tool for the government to get more power from us. So forgive me if I don't say, wow, this is a great thing. We're going to fight terrorism. Forgive me.
Well, terrorism is. First of all, there's a saying that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, number one. Okay. However, let's accept we're dealing with, vile forms, vile terrorists, etc. I want to ask you, I'm genuinely interested in your interpretation of this, Anthony. Now let's look at this. The JT shall also investigate. And we know that what's in the II, the 2, we know this is mandatory, right? We start from that point. We know it's mandatory. We also know that it's in addition to, a domestic terror, right? Now, here's what they're saying. Now, what I want to ask you is a very simple question. Since today is my day of simple-mindedness from beginning to end, I will continue my simple-mindedness. Anthony, do you read that as saying that there's a requirement to investigate American citizens residing abroad?
There is a requirement. There's an affirmative duty yes. The joint, what is this called? The national
The
joint,
JTTFS, okay,
whatever. This is even line up. Look at it. It is local offices. What? That's not even. The acronym doesn't even line up in any way. It's like a little confusing. So
let's not let that confuse us from what you're trying to say here. So look, this is, well, it's interesting. Somebody's asking about it on your channel. That must make it a matter of public interest, right?
It is indeed, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That fact alone. But the question is this, right? Does this mean that this group of whatevers are required to investigate American citizens residing abroad?
Yes.
You think it does?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what do you think of that, Anthony? You think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well,
what do you think of Americans abroad anyway? What do you think?
Well, anyway, what I would say, it's just a verbalization of our already existing policy. Americans abroad are already investigated. The amount our bank accounts are already snooped on. We already know that. I already know this. So I would say this is so there's no additional powers granted by this because the government's taken them already. So
it does seem to me to be very well aligned with the Internal Revenue Code. Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to say, by the way, I hope you understood our point. That I think we gave both sides of the argument, and I think we're coming on the side. Hey, look, the government's a problem, and they don't. We understand the Constitution's ignored. We get it. So I hope you understand, and please, we are trying to present all reasonable sides, even if we're getting a little passionate. It's okay. I hope we haven't shut you down or said this is not a place for debate or controversial takes. This is a welcome home for that sort of thing. We do like to take a look at things and see what they actually say. And John's going through right now saying, hey, look, this is a mandated duty to investigate Americans overseas. And I'm saying, well, already kind of going on, so it's just a little bit more. Now, this is what I'm saying that could be interesting. That could be, because if we want to present the other side, or some.
Oh, hang on one second, Anthony. I'd be interested to hear from some of the commenters. Do they read this as, because not everybody does. Okay, not everybody does. Let us know if you read it as a mandatory duty to investigate American citizens abroad or not.
Yes.
Because Anthony, you do. I think I do.
Guys, let us know if in the comments if you think that the government has a mandated duty to investigate U.S. expats for suspected terrorism. Mandated duty. So I would say that we get your opinion on that.
Let's just stay with this for 1 second, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
What this says, because this is it's actually shocking because if you look at this whole executive order, honestly, it's just a bunch of incomprehensible bullshit. Okay. I understand. I would recognize this stuff if I saw it, but I think it's dangerous. It's almost an invitation for them to decide what's domestic terrorism and what isn't. And I think that, that's a problem. All right. But in any case, let's parse the language here because it's quite interesting. So also investigate non-governmental organizations. I think I understand what that is anything that's not government. and American citizens residing abroad. The
Oh, you're going back up to that. Okay, hang on. Let me go back up to that part because I'm chomping at the bit for this part. So where was that? What was section 2, right? Here we go.
Yeah, it's 2, right?
Sorry. Yeah. And
you know, so
there we go. So this is the one we're still talking about. I'm going to talk about the one down below.
So
yeah.
look,
Okay, go ahead.
One thing that's very interesting about this is that, first of all, I don't think it's easy to understand this in terms of, in a lot of ways. But American citizens residing abroad, that's unusually clear. In fact, that's probably the clearest polio.
But it also cleared up. Look, you don't need to be an American for the United States to investigate you. Or hey, look, whatever. You're an organic life form. We can investigate you.
Yeah. So, but let's read further, right? I mean, this is whoever wrote this. This isn't exactly a model of clarity, but so we have non-government organizations and American citizens residing abroad now, now I would interpret that to mean American citizens not residing abroad. In other words, the simple fact of being an American abroad warrants investigation. It's like citizenship taxation. The fact of U.S. citizenship, no matter where you are, you're taxed. The fact of being an American citizen abroad, no matter where you are outside the United States, warrants investigation. If you're not an American citizen residing abroad, but you're just a normal citizen, you're not presumptively subject to investigation. Unless you have, now look at this, close ties to foreign governments. Now, what might that mean? Would that mean a dual citizen? Interesting. Agents, citizens. What if your spouse is a citizen of another country?
Oh, here it is. Right? Here's the follow-up. So this is great. Thank you so much for the question. Thank you for this software.
Foundations, networks. Now, I want you to notice, Anthony, that regardless of what's intended here, and I actually don't know that I don't think that they realize what they did, but whatever. And notice that if you're not an American abroad, they have to somehow link you with dual citizenship, a non-U.S. spouse, or some violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. We could do a separate podcast on that, or money laundering.
We might want. I know, and I think we might want to do that.
Notice that being an American citizen abroad is a sufficient condition in and of itself. Nothing else required to be investigated, right?
That's all you need.
What do you think about that?
That is,
we could do a short ad, okay? For understanding whether you're under investigation, being an American abroad. It's all.
Yeah, I do want to answer software's question directly. Seems like a blanket order to investigate all U.S. expats. My main question is, what do they mean by investigate Facebook's post transactions? And I would say yes. I think social media and bank accounts. Those are the two things.
I think it's broad enough to include absolutely anything and everything.
The thing I think the easiest thing, because they're already signing on bank accounts. So
including entry into the United States.
I would expect that as a minimum. That's sort of my point. The floor of this is your social media and your bank accounts. That's kind of where it's
that's true. But when's the opportunity to do that? You fly back to the United States. Where do you live? Canada. Whoa.
Yeah, no, and exactly the point. It's a very broad and an encompassing AO. Now, I want to talk about something here. We'll get back to this. Passport renewal probes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
now, one of the points made on Brent's space yesterday, and I think this is good advice, was renew your passports now. Renew those passports now. 3 months from now. Don't forget that no American citizen has a right to a passport, which really means no American citizen has a right to leave the United States.
No, you do not. No, you do. And
again, the problem is, Anthony, maybe the problem is that they're identifying American citizens abroad as escaped Americans. You think that's the problem? They see them as escaped Americans?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the property. And hey, look, and by the way, the wrong executive order I had up was this one. This is the government protecting, hey, You don't dare detain our U.S. nationals for wrong detention abroad. That's our property.
Exactly.
That's we own them. So you don't dare you do that. That's absolutely not. Hey, good morning, Gabe.
Well,
good morning to you.
Look,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
jammed up, Gabe. I am jammed up beyond on many things, but I think you know why, Gabe. I think you know why they're giving you questions because I think you had a lot of weed on you. That's why. I bet you did. Good morning to you. Nice to hear from you. I want to get to this part. You okay? I want to get to. I'm chomping at the bit for this part here. You guys gotta let me get to it here. All right. It is the part on the on where was I? Here we go on the Commissioner of Revenue because here's something to think about. Okay, if we're trying to say, well, is there any potential things that the enemies of America wouldn't want? Okay, just consider this because I actually did some research into it. If you are trying to evade taxes, by far the easiest, best entity to do it in is a nonprofit. Nonprofits, there are 1.8 million nonprofit returns filed per year. Okay. And I would say this, we get a lot of bad people in compliance. It's amazing how many years of non-compliance you can have before anyone really cares. And so it's a very loosey-goosey sort of system, these nonprofits. And we know that the nonprofits were politically targeted. Lois Lerner and her group, I think she was a fall person. She was not the person who did it. She was a fall guy. She didn't direct it. She couldn't direct it. She was the one who took the bullet for the team. Lois Lerner, no one was really ever punished for that one whatsoever. The government, there's so what we know for a fact is, does the government interfere with tax exempt for political reasons? Yes, we know that. Yes, it's a fact. It's a proven fact. Does the government investigate nonprofit organizations? Doesn't appear to be much at all. And even those 1,800, 1.8 filed, about 2,000 nonprofits a year lose their nonprofit status that through some sort of action of the IRS. So those aren't even audits. Those are just like, well, you didn't do something. So there's incredibly little scrutiny. Incredible little scrutiny. There's a good one. Yeah, nice, Gabe. Good one. There's incredibly little scrutiny on nonprofits. So that is something that I happen to know, and it's a great scam. But now, this is where the Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service must takes action that no tax-exempt entities are directly or indirectly financing political violence or domestic terrorism. Well, we know that there's many that are. That's actually how they do it. That's actually how they do it. And yes, Sherry, good morning to you, dear. Sherry, you had the most interesting career. I got to say, you always have the greatest comments. I love it. Sure, I worked at Wall Street and left from the evil. Went to work for NGOs and found they are this. Oh my God, that's perfect. Thank you, Sherry. Oh my God, exactly. So the fact is, this is number one. What you find is that if you're looking to evade taxes, that partnerships are a great place to do it, and that's where a lot of people do their profit activity. Then nonprofits are where the greatest scams exist, and by far. And then there's government grants, and then you get exemptions on property taxes. It's by far this is what I always say. Yes, 1.8. Yes, correct. Rochelle, 1.8. That's what I looked up. That's how many need to file a 990 or 990 EZ. 1.8 million. Whoa, Sherry. Whoa. Sherry. Yeah, that's kind of that's exactly where I'm talking about, Sherry. That's the part that gets me excited. Jay gets me excited because because of this right here. That might be something. But this is what I would say. This is where I'm kind of going back at the same point and back up to here. This is the sort of thing that I would find quaint. And Sherry, by the way, if you ever want to talk to me, please, and anyone here, you want to talk to me, here's my email. Please reach out to me. That's my email right there. So please reach out to me if you need to. John might have. I think John had something to hop off on. I'll give him his introduction. Here's the point I want to get to, though. This back to here. When we were talking about the investigations, the JTFF shall also investigate, right? I'm just sort of looking at this. And you know what that word should be replaced with? Andrew Prune. You know what word I'm thinking about? 2 words. You know what 2 words I'm thinking about? Please, Sherry, reach out to me. John's back. John words. So this is what I'm going to wrap up with, John. I got a lot of phone calls coming in myself I got to get to. The JTFs shall also investigate. And this is what I would replace JTTFs with: grand juries. Grand juries are supposed to investigate. Grand juries, yeah. Hey, grand juries should investigate. Hey, what happened to that? So that's sort of that really would be very, very nice. So that's sort of what I want to finish up with today. And Gabe is going to start smoking weed, maybe. No, I'm not. No, Gabe, it's all going to work out. There's so much going on, Gabe. Remember, I would say this. I think we have an information overload, and that's sort of the whole point. And one of the points is that there's so much going on that so few people even saw this shutdown coming. And here it is. And normally the shutdown consumes the news. There's no other discussion. And yet here it's an asterisk. It's also with all, and I mean, in a way it's kind of true. Like, well, in relation to all these other things, good for you. Be smart. Don't stop. Wait, don't start, Gabe. Appreciate that. I think that's where we are right now. Now I want to just get, I do want to, we want to what do you guys want us, do you guys want us to hit on the more of the FARA, Foreign Agent Registration Act? John, you were mentioning about that maybe for next time.
Well, we can do that if you want. I mean, I don't know how interesting it really is. I mean, it's highly technical.
Okay.
I mean, I think the conclusion is on that, for anybody who's interested, that Americans abroad need to consider whether their political activity is consistent with that law or not. Okay, because my understanding is that an American citizen abroad is treated as foreign for the purposes of that statute. Okay, that's my impression of that.
Okay, all right. So we might just we'll look into that a little bit more, but not from a whole basis. I didn't get by. We didn't have time to get into the whole IRM. I did put the link to this in the super chat. If you are sort of curious, what are the shutdown procedures of the IRS? They actually publish them in the Internal Revenue Manual. So here they are. I did put a link to that in the super chat if you do want to check that out, because I know a lot of people come here for technical answers and some guidance about where to look for things and to find answers. So here we go. This would probably be its own. And actually, maybe we'll go into this next time, because as it is now, the IRS has about 5 days to figure out what's going to happen. So we might go into the IRM a little bit more. That could be the next topic that we talk about next week. And one more comment here from software. Let's just make sure we really appreciate we're able to address this. Again, I think here we go. I think he's just underlying your point, John, right?
I don't know. Is he asking what he means?
American citizens residing abroad or with close ties to foreign governments.
I read that as American citizens residing abroad, period. Or if you're not an American citizen residing abroad, then provided these additional conditions are met. Okay. I mean, the point is that I think no matter how you read this, no matter how you read it, I think you would have to concede that it can be legitimately interpreted to mean that the fact of being a U.S. citizen abroad triggers mandatory investigation. That's the problem.
You could, yes. Yeah, that is absolutely the problem.
Maybe this is a reason to renounce U.S. citizenship.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to get to, John. We're about to sign off. And so thank you, John. Yeah, and I think that's exactly where I wanted to lead to, is that, we're talking at the beginning of this, is that we've noticed for years that renouncing your U.S. citizenship can be the most important part of an estate plan for some people. For some people, renouncing your U.S. citizenship can really be the most critical thing. I just helped out a small fish in where was he, in Guatemala. He's going to inherit a business from his mom, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to do any of that 5471 stuff." I said, "Got it. We do it. Very quick, easy one. If you got a complicated one really detailed, and you want someone to really go in and look at everything and really take his time to explain things and go in places other people won't, I got to recommend John Richardson. If you're renouncing your citizenship, you're thinking about doing it, There is no one finer. You guys know his level of detail. He's such a great friend to all of us. He's a great guy. He really sees this for what it is. Reach out to him at citizenshipsolutions@protonmail.com. We're having that great wealth transfers coming up. Oh, it's coming up there. And who has their hands out is everybody, right? So you got to kind of limit whose hands get into your stuff there and the headaches you have. So it really can be most critical part. Your trust could be the small part. An elaborate trust could be the small part of your estate plan. Really, it's renunciation can be the most critical part to getting it done. So please reach out to John. And also, Keith did hop off, so be sure to check him out because again, we're dealing with a lot of these issues coming up now. 10 years ago we did a lot of streamlined disclosures, and now we are dealing with a lot of the inheritance issues popping up and the tax complications. And so we're fixing a lot of plans, taking a look at things. People are coming to us for tax advice. You can come by the and again, if you're not ready to reach out to an attorney, that's what Keith is. He's the concierge. He's a concierge for people with their questions. His group is really comprised of a lot of people a lot of married couples with substantial, growing substantial assets overseas and really confused about what to do. So you can go there, and then you could also reach out to Keith directly. And now for myself here, I got to go. I got to see if there's any more comments. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you guys. Thank you very much, Support Shell. Great to see you today. Thank you so much, guys. And likewise for myself, if you notice, I did change the name of the channel. We are now One Team Legal and Tax. But again, if you missed the joke, I'm not bought out by private equity. I just changed the name of it because as IRS Medic, it's confusing to the marketplace because people think all we do is fix tax problems. We actually have stopped the tax problems because we've seen all the mistakes people have made over the years. And so we do the whole thing. We do estate planning, business advisory. We're tax preparer. We do the whole thing. And, as one of my new clients said, he came in. He was just in here the other day, John. He goes, Anthony, you got a gold mine here. I go, I do. He goes, why is that? He goes, well, let me tell you what happens. He goes, I call my CPA. He gives me an answer. It's something. I call my attorney. He gives me a different answer. And they both send me a bill. What's this? You actually know both sides of it. So I was like, oh, that's pretty good. So actually, he was actually the inspiration behind the change, because that's really why we're good at tax problems, because we see, and really like, John, same thing, everything relates. Look, taxes go into everything. And if you're getting an estate plan done and you haven't looked at the tax plans, you don't have an estate plan, you have a question mark. You need to make sure you have it. And it's really the reason why I'm pushing in here is because again and again and again, we have bad news from people. Yeah, they did a bad plan. Yeah, that bill you actually have, and a little bit of knowledge could have helped something. I mean, it's constant, and the calls I have of people crying in tears, and I don't want that to be you. So please, it's time to get going on this. Reach out to John, Keith, or I. We're here accessible. Also, you can find us on X. And for that, I'm Anthony Parent of One Team Legal and Tax. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.